Hi guys, I'm here today with Diony from Paperform, and this is a service I've been using for over a year, and Diony very kindly agreed to be interviewed about how they got started. It's a fascinating story. So the first question, Diony, is, when you think about forms, there are so many. There's Google Forms and there's Typeform. There's so many people out there that do it. What made you and your business partner, Dean, and also your husband, what got you started in this?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really, the need for a solution came to us. So we were both working 9 to 5. I was working as a product and project manager for Google Arts and Culture, actually, for Australia. So more in the cultural space, because my background's originally history and art and that sort of thing, but I love tech. So I found myself working there, and Dean is a web developer, and he was working for a startup. And yeah, we just had family members, friends, acquaintances who had businesses coming to Dean quite frequently and asking him to build a form for their project or business website, whatever. And it happened so much that we both stopped, and we have always had a dynamic where we bounce ideas off of each other. And I think we were at a place where the idea of starting a business together was just inevitable at some point. And yeah, we realized that there was a gap in the market, obviously, because people weren't using these existing solutions. And we thought, there are so many solutions out there. What particularly are people looking for? That's something. And
so just sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, when these people came to you, what sort of problems were they having, and why do they need Dean to build a form?
So really, there were 3 core things, and it's where we get our slogan, "Easy, Beautiful, Yours" from. So first of all, I think people are very used to a drop and drag interface for a form builder in particular, and that can work really well for certain things. But for the most part, we found that it wasn't intuitive. People have kind of assumed that it's intuitive because it's what everyone does, but we just didn't understand why someone would make something much faster and easier to use. And we found something more along the lines of a doc interface, so being able to use free text and edit, and then just injecting elements throughout that wherever you need, whether it be an image or a question or a payment field as well.
Yeah.
They needed something that was genuinely more efficient, faster, and more fun to use, I think, as well. So that was part of it being easy. And then it being beautiful and yours, it's kind of a bit of those 2 things work together. Something being beautiful, it's not just about it being pretty. It's about something that really represents your brand, which makes it yours. So we've made the product incredibly customizable. So the people that were coming to us, they had strong brands already in place. And one of their problems was they couldn't find anything out there that would really represent their brand well. If they were using a Google form, it looked like a Google form. And quite frankly, they've got a few styling options, but they tend to be a little bit ugly. And if you're using a type form, they're quite beautiful. They look like a type form. So when if I'm on someone's website, and using Typeform. I mean, I'm sensitive to it though, but straight away I'll be like, oh, that's, they're using Typeform. And we really wanted to create something where you wouldn't know whether or not they had a dev build it, something that they could create themselves. So these were people who weren't technical or weren't hugely technical, and they needed to be empowered. And part of our vision is to democratize tech with whatever product that we come up with, and Paperform. It was really important that people were able to use that, even if they had no technical knowledge.
Yeah.
And
the feedback when you were doing these forms was that, were these people actually using it themselves? So was Dean just building the forms for them? Was he making something they could use themselves, or both?
No, this is the thing. He's such a lovely person. So he would, create these forms, and then often he'd find himself managing them. And part of it was Dean saying, how do I create something that actually allows them to create the form but also manage it on their own as well? To this day, we often get asked, can you please create a very high-level white label solution where you can create the forms and manage them for us? And we're happy to pay, a larger company is happy to pay a substantial amount of money. That kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing.
Oh, well, it's obviously a need in the market there, so you're doing it. So
maybe it's a lot.
I've been with you guys for a year, so I'm a big fan, so I'm biased, so I'm not going to let, but some other questions were, the changes that you make, the constant upgrades and these integrations that you're doing, where does it come from? Because it just seems like every week there's something new coming out. So you guys are you like working 24 hours a day, or what's the story?
Pretty much. I think there's a couple of things going on. I think our personalities, which is a big part of our brand, and we'll make sure that's part of our culture, is we just love the product. Right. And in tandem with that, our customers come first, and we really are genuinely listening to what people need. We can't do everything. We just love being able to find out a very consistent use case or a need for Paperform, and being able to facilitate that. And Dean in particular just has an incredible passion for programming. So for him, he will work quite a bit, but he just loves it. He really enjoys it. So, and the challenge of building something that's incredibly high quality very quickly for him, he can't say no to that. So I always laugh at him because he sets a schedule or a timeline for something, and my expectation is always that he'll get it done faster. And sometimes like, oh, you don't know what's going to happen. It might take a little bit longer, but 9 times out of 10, it's.
It just blows me away. I mean, obviously you've got 6,000 clients now. Is that right, roughly?
Yeah, approximately 6,000. So we have a lot of people trying the product. So I think we're just over 20,000 people who have tried the product. 6,000 people who have, committed to becoming customers for the product. We launched with an AppSumo deal that gave us capital. Two of my passions outside of product and project management are finance and legal stuff. And it's been important for me to ensure that the business is sustainable from the beginning. We've really stayed away from VC funding, not because we're not open to that at all, but because for us very early on to really get validation that this business is sustainable and that it's going somewhere, we really wanted to make sure that we could fund it ourselves, and by ourselves, the business would fund itself. Yeah. So we injected a tiny bit of personal capital into the business just to get the company established and that sort of thing. But then we did the AppSumo deal and launched, and that brought us around, I think, 2,000 to 3,000 customers that paid a lump sum. That gave us the capital to run with it, and we even, reimbursed ourselves for the cost that we initially put into it, because I just want to make sure that we can really say, oh, we've built something that's self-sustainable. Yeah.
Fantastic. The other thing is the conditional logic that the forms have. Now, I don't know if you remember, but because I do lead generation, as you know, and I had a client ring me, a new client, and they were looking for a conditional logic form, and they wanted to see me the following day, and I didn't have a clue how to do it. So this is the customer support you get at Paperform. So you kindly showed me on Skype. I was in a car park with a rubbish bin beside me and a guy trying to remove the rubbish bin and tooting at me while you were going through this form. And I actually got that client, but as it turned out, the legalities of it with the US thing, it's another story. But the conditional logic is just incredible. Once you get your head around it, obviously your training is great, but that thing I found really, really useful. I think probably a lot of people don't use it to the extent they could. Would you agree? Or are you getting a lot of people picking up on conditional?
I think part of that is, we release a lot of features, and one of the challenges with that is making sure that the UI is still easy to use and clean and not overwhelming and confusing. That's a challenge. It's really difficult. And that's why we did a redesign of the whole product. Last year. I can't say this year anymore. Yeah. But midway through last year is because we'd added so much, and we thought we really need to restructure this so that it's friendlier. And logic is a huge part of that. I think we will be doing the same thing specifically with logic. As time goes on, we'll be adding more and more power and ability to set more kinds of logic, but as part of that, we need to ensure that we're helping people to configure it properly. And I mean, something that Dean finds quite simple because his mind as a programmer thinks that way.
Yeah.
But I'm not fantastic with logic. It took me a while to get my rules and that sort of thing. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, it took me a wee while. What I noticed, though, once you get it, you just get it. You know,
Yeah,
you just
you have that aha moment, don't you?
Yeah, it's like that, and you go, oh, I've got it finally. It's because it's, and I noticed on some of your templates that you've got out, like the wedding and those sort of things. You put conditional logic within these templates. That's another thing just to talk about is how many templates have you got now for people to use? There's a lot, isn't there?
Yeah, so we've got over, there's like 100 and I don't want to say 115, 110 now. We just launched 80. We don't launch hundreds and thousands of them at a time because we actually make sure that we launch templates that we literally, we go to we contact our customers who create very successful forms, and we work with them to use their existing forms to create a template on that. Yeah. So it's time consuming, but it means that you have templates that are really actually useful.
Yeah, they're proven, aren't they? And they're proven in the marketplace already. Yeah, I know the guy I went through last night, and the wedding one was just some of those wedding ones. They're just really cool. And I guess do they work better because people are engaging with the form and sort of relating to their needs and desires? Is that the logic?
Absolutely. Like, we're talking about logic, talking about another kind of logic. People think that they make a purchase or they invest in something or respond to something because they've thought about it. But really what's going on 99% of the time is they've had an emotional response. And any logic you apply, let's say that you see, an incredible thing in a shop that you are instantly, and, you just think it's the best thing in the world. We find what people do is use logic to justify why that would be a good purchase, and they've convinced themselves that they've made a logical decision, but really it's a response to that. And it's the same thing with forms. There's this misconception that they should be administrational and that it's okay if they're boring, and really you're just not going to get a response most of the time if that's the case. If they're engaging, if they have rich images and they're interactive, which is where logic comes in, then you get an incredible response.
Oh, fantastic. So the other thing, I guess, to talk about is the Ecommerce integration, which that's quite recent, isn't it? I was having a play on it. So how did that come about?
This is exciting. So one of the things with Paperform from the very beginning is we had a couple of use cases that were really clear to us for the product because, as I said, people were coming to us. But what we've realized over time is that there's just endless opportunities and industries and business types that Paperform is genuinely useful for. So for e-commerce, one of the things we've noticed is that people are using Paperform more and more as a single landing page or a site to sell their products and services. At the moment, we support it quite well. So they're a product field. Our payment offering is very versatile, very robust. We integrate with Stripe, PayPal Business, Braintree, and we've just launched a Square integration as well, which means that you can have the form physically in a store and process a payment with a credit card if you have the app.
What have you just launched? Sorry, I missed that one.
Sorry, Square.
Square, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, and Square has the feature which we support, Square POS on their app. So we have a few customers who will put, their orders on a form and have it on a tablet and physically stand in their store or pop-up store or whatever it might be. And then when the customer's purchasing, they make the selection for them, or the customer makes the selection, and then using the POS app, they're able to pay by credit card rather than entering in their details. So there's really exciting things happening. But we realized there was a lot more that we could do to support use cases for e-commerce, that the product was most of the way there, but there's a few things that would really and so we've been listening to people very closely for the last year. And I can't share a huge amount of what we're doing just yet. As usual, we're doing a lot. But at the end of March, we'll be launching a whole set of features that will support e-commerce, so support the sale of products in particular very, very well.
So, I mean, I'm probably one of your most basic users because I just do simple forms, but in reality, you could just do landing pages with Paperform as well, with a custom domain.
Yeah, so oftentimes we describe some of our forms as landing forms because, they are this rich landing page and there's a whole bunch of data capture fields throughout the page. So I think a lot of the products out there that are landing page builders, they're quite fantastic, but they're very limited in terms of the data that you can capture. Whereas if you want something that is more engaging, you're able to do that with Paperform. So yeah, it actually took a while for us to support multi-page forms, so paginated forms. But we ended up doing that as well because there was such a high demand for it. So you really can't do either.
So that's on the agency version. You can use a custom domain and you have multiple pages within that. Is that?
Well, really on any plan, any form that you create stands alone as a single page that you can share via URL, a link. The degree to which you can customize that URL depends on the plan that you're on. So when you're on an agency plan, you can fully customize, you create a custom domain for the form URL.
Oh, that's good. Cool. Okay. The next one is that I'm sort of now obsessed with is the analytics. I find the analytics is just absolutely, it's just so interesting looking. So the analytics, can you tell us about the analytics, how it works with Paperform?
Yeah, so basically if you're on, I don't think it's available on Essentials, it's available on Pro and Agency. You can see the stats of a breakdown of stats of people who have engaged with your form. So the amount of times people have viewed it, responded, whether or not they're using a mobile device or a desktop, the breakdown of the questions that are being answered, and then you can see that represented as a pie chart. There's a lot more that we want to do later on in terms of the visualization of the analytics.
Yeah. I think one of my forms is probably the most popular form. It had nearly, I think it's 900 submissions, and there was one question in there that you pointed out to me that people actually were getting to that and then basically stopping.
Drop-off questions. Yeah, that's incredibly.
You don't get that anywhere, do you? I mean, you can't get that information off anywhere. So that was a big, benefit of Paperform.
Yeah, knowing exactly where people are stopping, figuring out exactly why they're doing it is a little bit harder, but it makes it easier when you know that people are encountering a question and then for whatever reason that particular spot is where they're abandoning the form, help then come back and address that issue. And one of my favorite things is partial submissions, again, which is available on Pro and Agency. And in terms of e-commerce, we were talking about that a second ago, it's incredibly valuable to capture. So we capture the data that's being entered even if the form isn't submitted.
Right. Okay.
So that means that if someone has abandoned, let's say you're selling products and someone has abandoned the page, but they've selected a few products and you know that they're interested, you can follow up and say, we saw that you were interested in these products. There's a reason that you dropped off. We'd love to help out. And it means you pick up on a lot of leads that potentially you would have lost otherwise.
Yeah, and that's via email?
Well, it depends on what you capture, right? So if you have an email field fairly early on in the form and they've put in their email address, then, before they've abandoned, then you'll have that information. And even if you don't have their email address, I think just in terms of raw data and getting to know your customers, you can still capture a lot of partial information that will give you insight, even if you can't contact the lead again.
Yeah. And you could, because you can put a Facebook pixel on there too, you could also remarket some people, I guess, as well.
Yeah, definitely, you could do. I am rubbish with Facebook pixel. I know very little about it, so don't ask me too much.
Yeah, well, once again inspired by Frank Kern, because I've always noticed in New Zealand and Australia, because our populations aren't the size of America, is that the targeting that they talk about in America is a little bit different for New Zealand. So sometimes if you narrow your targeting right down when you're putting an ad up, you actually don't get anybody. It's just too narrow. But Frank put out this beauty the other day by saying, well, just put a video up and let it run to everybody, and anybody who's watched it over 50% is interested in retarget them.
You'll be surprised as well. I think one of, again, another challenge we've faced has been that we struggle to limit the number of customer segments we have, because the product is so useful to so many different industries, and it can be overwhelming to think about the potential that's there. But what you've said is so true. We don't want to limit who it appeals to. So in terms of marketing, it's really difficult to choose one particular niche or market and pursue them, and now just kind of ignore a whole bunch of others because you just want to do something that you can't.
Well, I came across you guys because I was using another system, and it was just I couldn't get my leads to my clients. It was an ongoing issue. So every week I get the dreaded phone call. In your report, you said we've got 20 leads. We've only received 12 of them. And that's how I think I Googled, I can't even remember how I found you guys, but I think I might have Googled it or something, or I asked in a group on Facebook, if I recall, and someone suggested you guys, and I thought, I'll just give it a try and see if the leads actually go through. And I think I mentioned to you that I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of leads. I've had 100% success rate. So I've not had one phone call for about a year and whatever it is that I've been using you guys. I've not had one client ring and say I have not received a lead. They match up 100%. So, and I noticed today, because something I didn't know you guys do, is the email, the auto send of confirmation to a client when they actually submit a form. So
that's so. Thanks for sharing that, Craig. That we love, that we just love talking to our customers, and it's great to have a viable business and everything. But being able to have conversations like that, that's what really drives us. So it's brilliant to hear. So the email response feature is great because you can automatically send an email to the respondent or the person who's submitting the form, as well as anything else you can include in that. And that's something that I'm sure that we will continue to make even more powerful as well in terms of what you can include in our customers.
Dean's obviously, treating the server like a baby and looking after it, because it seems to be able to send these emails, and even to, I've got autoresponders which go to the same clients, and even the best autoresponders don't seem to get the emails sometimes, whereas the one from your server just seems to get through anything. So that's a big plus.
Look, the real challenge with email responses like that is that you're subject to the firewalls, the products, the apps that are being used by your leads. So there's many occasions where you'll have the automatic email sent, but for whatever reason it's not reaching the inbox of your lead or the other person, purely because of the setup that they have. And there comes a point where there's not much that you can do about it.
Well, we double up by going to Google Sheets as well, so they're never going to miss it. But just it was just a pain, because. But I noticed there's a very exciting update coming from me anyway, which is going to push straight to Google Sheets without Zapier. Is that coming up soon?
Yeah. So I'm so glad you're excited about that. Woo-hoo. Yeah, this is everyone's excited about this. So as I said, we've got a new dev starting in February, and what that means for us is moving even faster, if that's possible. And we will be releasing a massive amount of direct integrations this year. That's one of our biggest pushes. So this month in January, we will be releasing the first 5 of those. And off the top of my head, see if I can remember, we'll be releasing Google Sheets, Trello, Slack, I believe ActiveCampaign, and MailChimp. So they're pretty much our 5 most requested direct integrations. But yeah, it means from Paperform, you will be able to go into your form, go to integrations, set exactly the data you want to go and connect to a sheet, just that, and then you're done. And everything. Yeah. I mean, something with the UI, it sounds a bit lame and nerdy, but I've been keeping my eye on the UI as it's being developed. And, we're talking about logic and having that aha moment. I think there'll be a very quick aha moment with integrations. It's not going to be too technical at all to be able to set up.
Who'd have thought that simple forms could turn into 27 minutes of conversation, and it's all been fascinating. So it's just it's an incredible business you got there, Diony. And look, I've pretty much run out of questions, but there's two more actually.
Oh.
Yeah. One is what's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh, how fantastic! What a great question. Do you mean in general? So like not even to do with anything to do with Paperform?
Yeah, just in general.
Okay. So I do a lot of things that I'm a bit of a dork. I do things that are embarrassing all the time. One of the gold moments that I really laugh about now, though, was I was working in a museum with as an assistant curator is the best description, working with some really incredible people, very professional environment, people that I really admired. And one of the ways that I really would love to thank people when they helped me out, I'd just done an internship and I would bake cookies for people. And there was one particular person who happened to be a guy, male, and he'd helped me out with something, and I was writing him an email because he was on the other side of the department. And I was just letting him know that I was going to be thanking him. And I wrote, thanks so much, so-and-so. I'll have to thank you with some baked goods. But I hit the N, which is next to the B. And I sent it without reading. This is why you always double check. And so here I am sending out this email to someone saying, I'd like to thank you with some naked goods. So that was, even now.
That's the best. Yeah.
It's so funny. I, of course, immediately wrote a follow-up and said, I think I tried to retract the email. And then just as backup, I wrote and I said, I'm so sorry, that was supposed to say bake. But man, we all laughed. It was great.
Yeah, that's a brilliant one. And the other one was just to finish on with, what's coming up. But I think we sort of covered that, I think, haven't we? You've, what's the things for 2019 that sort of stand out that are coming up?
Yeah, we've got some really, really big things planned towards the second half of the year, which I can't actually talk about too much at the moment. So stay tuned for even bigger things. What I can talk about is the first quarter of this year. And really, we've got that e-commerce feature set in March, which will be, there's actually a couple of elements in there that I think will be useful to legal, it sounds weird, but legal firms as well. Yeah, that in particular will be great. So, when you get the PDF summary of a submission, so being able to fully customize that. So if you wanted to create, for e-commerce, it makes sense because you can create a branded invoice. And then for legal, it makes sense because you'll be able to have essentially a contract format once the form is finished. So e-commerce in March, we've got the affiliate program launched at the very end of December, but really is kicking off throughout 2019. Direct integrations. We also will be integrating with Integromat, which is very similar to Zapier. It's same sort of app, which a lot of people use. So that'll be a big win. And that's it for Q1, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's enough. I mean, it's just I'm just amazed by, how you can, because your support is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's just so good. And how you're able to provide support for so many thousands of people so effectively and do all these incredible upgrades and integrations that just keep it going. You guys are just machines. It's really impressive. So,
thanks. Thank you very much. This year, the other thing that I really should note is that we'll be growing the team. So it's funny you mentioned support because we have very high standards, and we feel the last couple of months, as we've been really growing rapidly, it's been a challenge to provide the same level of support. So thank you for bearing with us through that. But we'll be getting people on board to make it even better too.
Yeah, I know, because most of the questions I need to ask are quite tricky ones. They're not sort of simply, well, I think one was quite simply answered. I asked, I want to change the colour of my font, and you were able to help me with that one, so that was a bit embarrassing. That's not my most embarrassing moment, of course, Diony.
Oh, actually, no, not at all. That's actually something that we're doing this year as well that's more UI based, is we will be drastically improving our education in apps. So it'll be much easier for you to find relevant information. We're always happy to have the conversation, but if you don't feel like listening to us, it should be easier.
Yeah. Well, that's probably going to wrap us up, guys. You can get a free trial for 14 days. You just go to paperform.co. There will be an affiliate link below this. If you want to use my link, I would appreciate it, but either way, it doesn't matter. You just need to get on Paperform. Try it. You're going to love it, I promise. We have covered a lot of in-depth stuff today. It is also, if you just want to use it for basics of the stuff, it's very, very good at that as well. You don't need to get as excited as we've talked about today. But that's great, Diony. Just thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome. It's been a good interview. I've really enjoyed myself, and I've actually learned a few things as well, which is great. So, and I wish you all the best, you and Dean, and your 9-month-old baby.
Yeah, little Sterling.
Yeah. But Sterling?
Sterling Douglas.
So I wish you and Dean and Sterling all the best for 2019 with the growth of Paperform, and I know you're going to do well because it's such a cracking product, and you guys are just just such a great company to deal with. So
thanks so much.
Have a good one,
Craig, and it's so lovely to have this conversation with a customer, and thanks for your support.
Cool. Okay. Well, all the best. Cheers. Bye.